Good morning, everyone. Jagmeet Singh is using Twitter diplomacy instead of the power that he's got in the House of Commons. So Jagmeet Singh is tweeting instead of maybe calling Andrew Scheer and saying, hey, do you want to bring down the government over Trudeau's lying and cheating and giving money to his family instead of funding the summer jobs program, which he could have done, but chose to not do, chose to actually refuse more funding while giving a big giveaway to his buddies? No, he'll just send a tweet. Good enough. 6.5 thousand likes. Totally worth it. Here's the tweet. Mr. Trudeau apologizing isn't enough when the apology is only because you got caught. Aga Khan trip, caught. Helping friends at SNC Lavalin, caught. We Charity, caught. Jody Wilson-Raybould? That's not a scandal? Okay. Saying sorry in front of cameras means nothing when you keep doing the same thing behind closed doors. Well, that's Trudeau. I mean, I can't believe, Jagmeet, you partnered with him to shut down Parliament all summer. We can't do anything about this until September, right? Because the parliamentary calendar is controlled by the Liberals. You shut down Parliament with them, so we don't come back until September because COVID, right? Remember? I remember. Okay, we've got lots to cover today on but we've got some other stories that I think are relevant before we get going on that. I thought this was a little scary. Canada-US border to remain closed to non-essential travel until at least August 21st, sources say. I don't know what the play is here with regards to, I've heard people say that the United States is doing very badly on their COVID response because of so many positive test results. I've seen convincing reports that say tests are being given daily to positive patients and counted multiple times. So I don't believe most of the numbers that I've read because of these reports. So, I mean, maybe they are experiencing a high volume of positives. And if they are experiencing a high volume of positives, their low death rate seems like good news, right? But people don't seem to see it that way, which is strange. So I don't know why the Canadian government doesn't want to open travel. I don't know why the American government doesn't want to open travel. I think there's probably multiple layers in play here. Like the surface layer is that the Canadian public is relieved that the infected people aren't coming to Canada for the low dollar, essentially, is what the news is kind of going with here. But I think that there's a high level chess game going on, and there always is. That's international diplomacy, right? There's always that game theory, and what do you know, and what do you know that your opponent knows and all of that stuff, right? All of those layers are happening in this world with intelligence and phones and all that other stuff. I'm sure there's more layers to this border being closed than just the very surface of it. But I don't know enough to know what the play is here, other than I think probably Donald Trump is quite happy. I think it's very, very inappropriate that I've heard reports that Roxham Road and other illegal crossings are open. So if you want to illegally cross the border into Canada, no problem. But if you want to legally cross into the United States for like a vacation or something, not a chance. If you usually go down to if you're a snowbird or something to that effect, and you usually go down to Florida and you went late or something to that effect, right? Like it seems arbitrary. I'm not privy to this level of why this is good for Trump or good for Trudeau or anything to that effect, other than it reinforces the hypocrisy of the early borders don't work. I mean, it's very very weird, right? Borders don't work, but we have to keep the border closed between Canada. Border closing doesn't help prevent the stop of the spread of the virus. Excuse me, but we have to keep the border closed indefinitely until at least August. Okay, sure, yeah, I'll totally swallow that. No problems. Right. Okay. A Quebec City biopharmaceutical company began clinical trials on humans on Monday for a plant-derived COVID-19 vaccine. I did not read this article. I just wanted to let you know that human trials have started. I don't know if this is the Chinese vaccine. I don't know why they're highlighting plant-derived. What a strange thing to highlight. Plant-derived. Does that matter? Really? What was where was it grown? Like, because you have to develop the vaccine in a stomach lining or something to that effect. Some vaccines are developed in dog stomachs, I believe, that I was reading. And so like I'm more interested in how that, like, did you put it in a what are those things called? A Venus flytrap? And that created the vaccine? Like, how does I know I should probably read the article, but all I really wanted to tell you is that they started human trials. I think that that's a bad idea. I think that any vaccine that's created in less than a year and they start saying, yeah, it's totally safe. We tested it enough and you line up. We're going to put you right here. Nope, not a chance. A year? No way. No way. Most vaccines take 10 to 15 years to develop and test properly and blah, blah, blah. The one they came up with for the H1N1 vaccine in 2009 had people given narcolepsy. Like people got narcolepsy from this thing. And is that a good price to pay? Did this H1N1 flu vaccine help a lot of people, or did it just give, I think it was 60 people. It was given to 60 million people and 60 people got narcolepsy. And you know, do they just pay the price for the other people? How long was the vaccine? How long did it work for? Right? I don't know, and I don't have the answer. But I'm thinking that possibly it did more lifelong harm, at least to those 60 people, than good. Right, in the long term. Right. So, and I don't see the demand for this other than people who are watching the CBC, and those people are declining a lot. Like, although there are still a lot of them. And I mean, there's a Gerald Butts tweet this morning that had like 7,000 likes. These people are, I can't believe that there's that many people that agree with Mr. Butts. I mean, just look at the facts of his employment from Dalton McGuinty to now. I mean, what a disaster. Anyway, and I think that that's just wild. That many. And the context is he's trying to like take down Maxime Bernier. And Bernier's talking about the WE scandal, etc. And he's talking specifically about Margaret Trudeau. And it's a very, I mean, I can get the tweet, hold on. Here's the tweet. So remember Gerald Butts had to quit because of the SNC scandal and the pressure the PMO improperly put on Jody Wilson-Raybould to give a deferred prosecution agreement to SNC Lavalin. Man, that's a lot of words, right? It's a complicated thing to even explain. So no wonder it didn't catch fire, right? This is much easier to understand. So Gerald Butts, the disgraced principal secretary of the Prime Minister, who had to quit due to an ethics scandal, the last ethics scandal, is weighing in here when Bernier is asking, he says, quote, what has Margaret Trudeau achieved in life to warrant being paid $250,000 to give a few pep talks to kids, apart from marrying a prime minister and being the mother of another? Oh, that's right. That's how things work in a banana republic. And I think Bernier's got a point, right? I think that's a good view of what's happening here, right? Giving payouts to family members. Here's another example, right? Federal government awards Justin Trudeau's half-brother $12,430 speaking contract last year. There you go. Yeah, who better than my little half-brother, right? Yay, right? So Butts says, I'll bite. She endured personal tragedy while suffering with mental illness under grinding public scrutiny that nobody in the press understood or sympathized with. She used her experience to help others who were similarly affected. Margaret Trudeau is a good person. Okay, that's his opinion, but I think that it's really interesting that he's inserting himself in creating a straw man argument. Like, well, maybe not a straw man argument. Hold on. Blaming her erratic behavior or the mental illness under grinding public scrutiny that nobody in the press understood or sympathized with. Well, it was a very different time, and regardless of the choices that she made or whatever in those times and how the press reacted, I don't know necessarily that goes to whether she's a good person or a bad person. I think that it's a really strange, like, drawing a line from Margaret Trudeau being a good person to what Bernier was saying, which is how is she qualified to speak to children other than being the mother of a prime minister and married to another? It's a weird walk to take, right? It's not like he was implying she was a bad person. It's implying she wasn't qualified to be giving speeches to adoring kids, right? Or kids aspiring to work hard and do something, right? Like, she was there because of circumstance, not because and name, not because of the hard work or whatever she did, right? It's not because she was a public servant. It's not because she was selfless and out there, right? Like, it's just a weird take. And so I apologize for my hot take on this. I wasn't going to include this because I don't like giving Gerald Butts any time. I really don't. I really just have zero interest in what he has to say. So that's why I wasn't going to include it. But I mean, was talking about it. So I apologize for the hot take. Okay, back to this. Me to We exists to benefit We Charity, but Me to We does not benefit from We Charity. That's what they told us. Here's We Charity paying millions of dollars to Me to We, the Kielburgers' private for-profit company. So this is from July 13th. Today's the 14th, and it says in 2000. We Charity was founded in 1995. Me to We started up in 2009. Me to We is a private corporation controlled by Craig and Mark Kielburger. We Charity's co-founders. We Charity buys promotional goods, school materials, and travel services from Me to We. In February 2019, We Charity bought $3.6 million in travel, leadership training services, and promotional goods from Me to We. In 2019, Me to We contributed $4.4 million to We Charity. Me to We is a corporate partner of We Days. So clearly, they're not really interested in telling the truth. They'll say whatever. They'll say whatever they can to continue the game. That's what's happening. Here is the public. So Justin Trudeau is saying, here's the Public Service Alliance of Canada. So that's PSAC Union. Okay, and here's PSAC Union's login. And this is posted July 2nd, and this is in their membership area, and this is a screenshot, so take it with a grain of salt. But Justin Trudeau said the public service recommended that they, being the government, outsource the $900 million contract to We Charities. And this is the union, or somebody in the union, posted this on the union website. PSAC is alarmed by the government's unexpected decision to outsource administration of the Canadian Student Services Grant program to the We Charity. The administration of national programs is the responsibility of public service workers, and they're specialized in that work. Moreover, the federal public service has extensive experience with administering a wide range of programs targeted at youth and students. Since the pandemic began, the federal public service has clearly demonstrated that it can implement newly announced government programs promptly and scale them up quickly. Mr. Trudeau's claim that We Charity is the only one that can administer the new grant program is not only factually wrong, it is also insulting to our members, said PSAC National President Chris Aylward. PSAC members have worked hard to support the government's rapidly evolving response to the pandemic and remain committed to doing so. I'm going to carry on here. Mr. Trudeau's claim that We Charity is the only one that can administer doing so. Okay, sorry. Keeping administration of the CSSG public would support accountability, oversight, and proper handling of private applicant information. It would also ensure that workers administering the grant and themselves compensated fairly. PSAC calls on the government to fully explain how it reached its decision to contract out the CSSG to the We Charity and commit to keeping the administration of all government programs public. So this is the union. This doesn't necessarily speak for the public service, in that the public service may have recommended this to the government without asking the union, but it's unlikely. It's really unlikely. I've worked in unions. I know how these things work, and it's really unlikely that you would say, you know who the best people to do this? Not us. Anybody but us. Like, it's not really how it works. Here's Justin Trudeau apologizing. Actually, this is the consolidation of a bunch of lies leading up to the We program being taken away from We, or We walking away from the program, or whatever. I'm not sure I'm going to play it. He's talking about, well, I'll play 30 seconds just to get a taste of what he's said. Okay, here we go.
And as the public service dug into it, they came back with only one organization that was capable of networking and organizing and delivering this program on the scale that we needed it, and that was the We program. The recommendation to use We to get opportunities out for young people was made by the public service.
Did anyone in the Prime Minister's office discuss the $900 million contract with We with anybody in the We organization? Did anyone in the Prime Minister's office discuss this $900 million contract with anyone at We?
The independent, nonpartisan public service actually referred and suggested that we use We Charity. We accepted the recommendation.
Did anyone in the PMO talk with anyone at We about?
So both Trudeau and Bardish Chagger are saying the public service recommended this, and so we went with the recommendation. This is our. Trudeau was going to say at the beginning of this, right here, the decision, and he went with the recommendation. He didn't say decision. He starts to say decision and corrects himself because the decision was made in cabinet. So interesting, right? Like, man, this is easier to explain than the very complicated SNC scandal. Jody Wilson-Raybould's, kind of cloak and dagger, speaking truth to power and stuff. It didn't work. It didn't play in the public sphere. It got people listening, but people couldn't understand it. And basically, if you can't easily understand a scandal, then it's not a scandal. And if you have to explain something to somebody, it sounds too conspiracy-like. Oh, I've got to get invested in this. One of the reasons why Mark Norman was ignored for so long, because it was such a complicated thing. Anyway, regardless, here's Trudeau apologizing for not recusing himself officially. Trudeau apologizes for not recusing himself from We Charity contact discussions. This is CBC, and there's a slant in this one. Prime Minister Trudeau said today he was sorry for not recusing himself from cabinet discussions about awarding We Charity a multi-million-dollar contract to administer the summer student grants program. Quote, I made a mistake in not recusing myself. I'm sorry, Trudeau told reporters. He said he should never have been part of the cabinet talks, given his family's close personal ties to the charity. The apology comes after CBC News and Canadaland reported that his mother, Margaret, and his brother, Alexander, were paid in excess of $300,000 by We and its entities for speaking engagements over the last 4 years. Trudeau said he knew his mother and brother were employed as public speakers, but didn't know just how much his family members were paid by We. I deeply regret that I have brought my mother into this situation. It's unfair to her, and I should have been thoughtful enough to recuse myself from this situation, Trudeau said. Trudeau said the public service first recommended We as the best pick for the contract, given its nationwide reach and its experience connecting students with volunteer opportunities. Now, I've shown you that that's not what necessarily the union of the public service thinks, right? They think that they've proven themselves, and the union is staffed by members of the public service, right? Like, usually there's union people, union employees, and then like people who work at the public service who also have a union role, right? So just so you're aware of how it works. So oftentimes there's if like they're doing double duty, right, on the union. So it's interesting. So maybe they did, but unlikely. Back to this. Trudeau said the public service. Trudeau said that he still should have known that his involvement in talks to award the contract would be problematic, given how closely associated his family is with the organization. When it came to this organization and this program, the involvement that I had in the past and that my family has should have had me removed myself from these discussions, and I'm sorry that I didn't, Trudeau said. He said that he regrets his failure to recuse himself from contract discussions has derailed a program that was set to help thousands of young people find work. I'm particularly sorry because not only has it created unnecessary controversy and issues, it also means that young people who are facing a difficult time right now getting summer jobs, contributing to their communities, are going to have to wait a little longer before getting those opportunities to serve, and that's frustrating. That's the slant they're going. Oh, those poor kids. Won't somebody please think about the children? Right, clutch those pearls. That's Maud Flanders. No, not Maud Flanders. The preacher's wife. Oh, I can't remember her name. Anyway, so that's the apology. Here's Bill Morneau's apology. The apology tries to do the Liberal tap dance away from. Actually, it's more of a waltz in this one. They waltz you away from the apology and go and finish in my little section. They go on to Bill Morneau's apology, but they walk back to this as well. They finish with, what about the children? And man, you could have just funded the summer jobs programs, right? What about the children? Back to this. Here's Bill Morneau. My statement on the administration of the Canada Student Service Grant. He says, when it came to the administration of the Canada Student Service Grant, our government's focus from day one was delivering help to students as swiftly and efficiently as possible. At the time, the public service recommended We Charity as the organization best suited to deliver this program. Do you see the line? You find your talking point, you repeat it, you say it over and over again in the House of Commons. Right, Catherine McKenna? That's how it goes, right? That's the line, right? We Charity, the public service recommended it. It wasn't us. We should have recused ourselves. Man, wish we did. Back to this. I did not recuse myself from the discussion on this topic. And given the fact that my daughter works for the organization in an unrelated branch, I now realize I should have in order to avoid any perception of conflict. I apologize for not doing so, and moving forward, I will recuse myself from any future discussions related to We. Interesting, right? Interesting. Here is Molly Thomas. She says, I asked the Prime Minister today, when will he learn his lesson on conflict of interest? This is the third time he has had an ethics problem since being PM. He dodged my question. Good job, Molly Thomas. I wanted to highlight that because there were some interesting replies on this. There were some people saying like, oh, this is the rude reporter who asked that. Wild stuff. Here's an Ottawa Citizen article that I thought, I don't know about this one. I don't know if they're going to be able to do this. Unlike SNC scandal, Trudeau could be forced to testify about we charity actions. This also highlights that we can't do anything, we being the public, can't do anything about this until September. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau faces multiple parliamentary investigations over his handling of a sole-sourced contract to we charity, but unlike during the SNC-Lavalin scandal, he could be forced to testify about his actions. But that won't be the last word on the issue, and both the Finance and Government Operations Committee of Parliament the apology that they just made. Government Operations Committee of Parliament have decided to study the contract. Conservative MP Pierre Poilievre said over the weekend that he intends to put the Prime Minister on the Finance Committee witness list. Conservative members of the Ethics Committee were pushing for a third investigation at that committee. Ontario MP Michael Barrett said it is important that this is studied from every angle, including what measures are in place to stop such conflict of interest from taking place. Quote, we've seen over the last 5 years with Justin Trudeau that his judgment isn't sufficient to safeguard against violations of the Conflict of Interest Act, he said. I scroll down. Most witnesses at a parliamentary committee appear voluntarily, but in some cases they can be mandated and ordered to appear. Earlier this year, the House of Commons Health Committee summoned Dr. Bruce Aylward with the World Health Organization to appear before the committee. Good example. He didn't show up. Aylward is out of the country, which is one of the limitations of a parliamentary summons, but the other is that by practice, committees can't force a prime minister or even an MP to testify in front of them. Should Trudeau refuse an invite from any of the committees, Parliament as a whole would have to consider next steps and a potential vote to force his appearance. Barrett said he doubts Trudeau's apology, but if the Prime Minister wanted to prove he was remorseful, showing up to committee to answer questions without a parliamentary fight would be a good start. Quote, I contend that he's just sorry he got caught, and if he is in fact contrite, then I expect to see him give a nice little account to Finance Committee, he said. Trudeau was circumspect Monday about whether he will appear. Quote, we have a number of ministers and officials testifying this week to answer questions at committee, and I will look at any invitations that come in and discuss them with my House leadership team, he said. I scroll down a bit. At this point, and this is NDP MP Peter Julian. At this point, there's so many contradictions between what has been said and what seems to be the actual facts, he said. During the SNC-Lavalin scandal, an attempt by MPs at the Justice Committee to bring back former Justice Minister Jody Wilson-Raybould to testify a second time was thwarted because Liberals had a majority on the committee. Now that's not the case. They're in a minority situation, so committees reflect the government. Back to this. If most committees reflect the governments, there are some that still have Liberal majority because they're the government. Okay, back to this. If Trudeau declines to appear at committee hearings, Devereaux said the opposition could force the issue during a full vote of Parliament, but they would have to be united to make it happen. If the main opposition parties can get their ducks in a row, they could get that in a motion, but that wouldn't be until September. So even if the opposition parties wanted to work together, they couldn't put anything together until September, if the government comes back. And here is a quick we math that's not done by me. CBC is reporting charities question whether we run student program would have been worth the money. And here's the quote. It says, even if 100,000 students were recruited and logged enough hours to earn the maximum $5,000 grant, that would actually only account for $500 million of the more than $900 million allocated to the program. Right. So I was saying that there's missing money here, and I did math poorly and was told that I got the math wrong. So thank you for keeping me honest and aware that I am terrible at math. But yeah, there's some gaps between the 900 million and the proposed 20,000 students who are going to be helped with the money. Big gap. Here is. I don't like unions getting into politics. I think that that's a bad idea. I think that they should stay out of it. But historically, I mean. Hoffa, right? He was a famous union guy who was offed by some upset politicians, I believe. So there's a long history of unions being involved in politics, but I don't like this move. Here's Global Guelph. A union representing Ontario healthcare workers says it will announce political action this morning in response to the province potentially extending its emergency powers. Now, I don't like the province extending its emergency powers. I think that that's wrong. I think that it's not backed up by the numbers, and I think that we should be stopping emergencies when the emergency is over, and the emergency is clearly over. The hospitals are not overrun, and things look like they're well under control. So I don't agree with what the government is doing, and I think that having pushback is important. I don't think a union should be coordinating the pushback. But that's just me. Last couple of stories for this morning. Nenshi says Calgary could implement mandatory mask bylaw. It makes no sense. It makes no sense now. It made no sense on June 12th when Guelph did it. Had they done it maybe in March or April when they said, "Man, this thing's really spreading. We gotta stop things," I would have gone along with it. Probably. I was back then. I thought masks were not harmful to people wearing it. I thought it was a null game. It is not a null game. If you wear a mask, you are reducing your oxygen intake, and that has consequences. But I believed it was a null game back then, and you can't just mandate a medical treatment for healthy people. Healthy people don't spread disease. It's just it is not appropriate to say you're healthy, wonderful, wear a mask. It is not appropriate. I think that it is very, very big overstep for the government to do this. I don't like it at all. And the last story here, no bumping and grinding in Ontario during stage 3. I just thought it was funny. No bumping and grinding, everybody. No way. And then he follows up with, so basically, if you're in a bar and a pony comes on and you want to get down on the dance floor, sorry, man. I know I said that terribly, but I thought it was funny. It made me laugh on my walk this morning or yesterday morning, whenever I saw it. It was yesterday morning that I saw it. Okay. Thanks for watching, everybody. Check out CanadaPoly.com. Check out CanadaReport.co, and have a wonderful, wonderful. Oh, and SpeakingMoistly.co, but I haven't been recording them recently. Things have been really busy, blah, blah, blah. Things are getting kind of back to normal in my house. Kids are going back to daycare, so scheduling appointments for people to do it has been rough. So I apologize. I'm not meaning to let it flounder, but it is floundering. Apologies. I'll get back to it soon. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.